What a crap year it's been so far for so many things. The games industry, the economy, it's just all bad. And as time goes on, it feels like things are just getting worse. So let's try and take a break and focus on a little nostalgia by talking about the PlayStation Portable, or better known as the PSP. Now, I got my PSP when I was in college, and let me tell you, I was obsessed. I used it a lot to play a bunch of PS1 classics, watched movies like Rush Hour and The Mummy on UMD, and of course, I played a lot of games. All this to say, it got me thinking, what are my favorites? So, welcome to my top 10 PSP game list.
Number 10.
For whatever reason, Sony and its various publishing partners and developers really believed the PSP would be a nostalgia tool to not only bring in Sony enthusiasts, but hopefully retro gaming fans as well, because hot damn were there a lot of remasters, remakes, and or ports for the PSP. Half of this list would have just been that list of games, but you know what? I figured I would give it its own ranking and talk about some of my favorites. So first up are both the remakes of the original Mega Man, better known as Mega Man Powered Up, and the original Mega Man X, known as Mega Man X Maverick Hunter. Now, admittedly, the graphic style is not my favorite, but I will always love Mega Man. And with Maverick Hunter, we got that really awesome animated film with the game. Both games really feel like celebrations and anniversaries more than anything else, and that's always a plus for me. Next up, the Power Stone collection. Now, I have loved the Power Stone games, and the fact that these bad boys have made it to the PSP was a really awesome experience. You've got both Power Stone 1 and 2 with extra characters and items for both games, and a lot of my excitement came down to this. Does this mean we're getting more Power Stone? No, I didn't mean that. Final Fantasy Tactics is one of my favorite games ever made, and the fact that it got a port to the PSP with some new changes made me jump for joy. Titled Final Fantasy War of the Lions, this game would feature fully animated and voice acted cutscenes, a new script which helps with some of the translation issues and localization, some new guest characters, as well as new classes. Now, the only true bummer about War of the Lions is that this game suffered from slowdown, a ton of slowdown at times. This is one of those games that could easily have gotten a modern day port and folks would still love it and play it till this day. So here's to hoping.
Number 9.
What if we had a Ratchet & Clank game, but instead it was just Clank? You would have Secret Agent Clank, a PSP game that made Clank feel more like a Lombax and less like a robot. The gameplay was pretty close to the other Ratchet & Clank games, and you'd end up still getting to play as Ratchet at some points in the title. But it was really Clank's gameplay that felt like the biggest change here. Instead of lacking in the combat and movement department, Clank was to feel like a bona fide hero. You can play some levels super sneaky like, or you can go balls to the walls crazy and brute force your way through the game. I was also down with the entire aesthetic of the game. This game felt like a mini James Bond adventure, full of gadgets and gizmos that made Clank into a tiny little super spy. He even gets a little tactical umbrella, and it's adorable. This game does have a few too many random mini games that just boil down to timed button presses, and I wouldn't put this super high on my Ratchet & Clank tier list, but for a pocket-sized adventure on a portable console, this game worked for me.
Number 8.
Metal Gear Solid is maybe the biggest game franchise that I regret not playing through every game in my life yet. I've completed the first one and played a bunch of the fourth, as well as the remake of Twin Snakes on the GameCube, but that's basically it. I know how critically acclaimed they are and how much they are loved by fans, but I just haven't found the time to sit down and truly dive into the series. That said, there was one more game in the series that I did check out and play: Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. This PSP title took what made every other Metal Gear Solid game that came before it and made it better. The gameplay was the tightest it had ever felt. The stealth was very silky smooth. Taking enemies out has never been easier. The levels all feel pretty self-contained and purposely built for a more handheld experience. Rather than sprawling bases, you get more compact environments that are packed with things to do. I also enjoyed the comic book-like cutscenes in the game. The grittier look and feel made them far more memorable than if it had just been traditional cutscenes. I don't know when I'll get around to completing this game, but Peace Walker is another solid entry in an incredible franchise that I need to know more about. It also doesn't include a weird trading card system like Metal Gear Acid had, so that's a win in my book. Not every card game is for me.
Number 7.
The PSP was home to a number of games that were spin-offs to well-known PlayStation titles and franchises, and one of the best in the bunch was Daxter. Daxter, famously from the Jak and Daxter series, never really got his time to shine in the mainline franchise. Jak was doing most of the heavy lifting there, while Daxter was there for some solid comedic relief. With this standalone PSP title, we finally got to control Daxter and live out our dreams of being a 2-foot-tall weasel-like creature. Now, this game came out years after 3 mainline Jak and Daxter games in the PS2, and it felt a bit more like the original game than either of its sequels. Instead of an open world with some gun-based gameplay, Daxter is much more of a 3D platformer. At times, it honestly felt more like a Ratchet and Clank game than a Jak and Daxter game. You've got a little bug experimenting gun that is upgraded throughout the game. You can use it to hover around and get to tough-to-reach places and shoot flames to flambe your enemies. This game also looks really good for a handheld title. It came out relatively early in the PSP's life cycle and set the bar pretty high for how games could look going forward. I've always enjoyed the Jak and Daxter series, but this one really scratches that itch the other ones did not. I'm a sucker for a fun platformer with an adorable mascot. What can I say?
Number 6.
When the PlayStation Portable launched, I wasn't sure what game I would get first. One game that came out at launch really caught my attention in a way I wasn't expecting, and that game was Lumines. Lumines is a puzzle game where you need to match blocks to have them wiped off the board. On the surface, you could think this is just another random puzzle game, but it is so much more than that. First off, the music. Every song in this game is a certified classic. Banger after banger after banger. It gets your adrenaline pumping in a way we haven't had since the original Tetris tracks. It's fast-paced with a beat that feels both stress-inducing and chill at the same time. The game also has some really awesome visuals. You would think that a game that features nothing but blocks would be dull and lifeless, but the little touches used in the background keep this game visually entertaining the entire time. And you can't tell me that these aren't the best looking blocks in gaming history. I mean, come on, look at them. I think that Lumines did a lot for the PSP. Whenever I talked with a friend about the PSP, our conversations would always at some point end up on this game. It had such a broad appeal and critical love. It just made sense that this game became a classic. This series hasn't had a new game in a long time. The last game we got was a remaster for modern consoles. But if they released a new Lumines title, it'd be an instant download for me, my friends.
Number 5.
I have always enjoyed rhythm games, but you know what would make them better? Cute little destructive blobs. Patapon makes this dream come true. This game combines rhythm and strategy into a near perfect blend and created one of the best games on the platform. Something about these dudes just ransacking everything they see just fills me up with a childlike wonder, and the cutesy visuals probably help with that as well. They aren't overly impressive, but the simplicity does a lot for creating a vibe. I'd be amazed if anyone could play this game for more than 5 minutes without having Patapon stuck in your head for the rest of your life. But that is just part of the addictive nature that makes you want to keep playing. Eventually, you have an entire army of these little guys taking down massive monsters and sieging every castle in sight, all to a simple beat. No joke, this is one of the best rhythm games of all time, and it's wild that we got it here on this handheld system.
Number 4.
One of the main reasons why I got a PSP was for Square Enix titles. I used to call this thing my portable Square machine. Now, this game didn't make me pull the trigger on getting a PSP, but it definitely made my head turn. Dissidia Final Fantasy to me will always be the what if of Smash Brothers for just Final Fantasy, where all of the games are connected in just this one essence in a fighting game mixed with tons of RPG elements. And I gotta tell you, at the time for the PSP, this game was rad as hell. Being able to play as the main characters from your favorite Final Fantasies and villains for that matter at times, taking what you know of their interwoven fates, how they individually handle and battle through their actions and spells, and seeing them fight to the death was always just a blast. Admittedly, when I first picked up this game, I did not understand how to play it. Now I do. The numbers make sense, combat makes sense, it's fun. My only true complaint with Dissidia is that it didn't feel all that well realized as a concept when it came to the PSP. Later sequels would go on to include more and more to crank up that nostalgia factor even further. But ultimately, it starts right here with Dissidia Final Fantasy.
Number 3.
In college, I probably played Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 way too many times on my PlayStation 2. Never really cared for the card game that was between 1 and 2. But the secret teasing at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2, seeing a Keyblade graveyard, followed by an epic fight with this evil-looking bald-headed dude, always got me excited to try Birth by Sleep. I was super worried that it would get too convoluted and really start going all in on its insane storytelling that Kingdom Hearts would really be known for. And for what it's worth, it still kind of does that here. But for a PlayStation Portable game, it's pretty freaking rad. Birth by Sleep has tons of content, from getting to play as multiple characters for different perspectives and storylines, to all the different side quests and mini games, laced with all that Disney nostalgia just baked right on in, and of course, equipped with a story that helped embolden the lore of Kingdom Hearts. Birth by Sleep is not only one of my favorite PSP games, it's one of my favorite Kingdom Hearts games in general. Speaking candidly, I'd rather play the PS3 or PS4 ports of Birth by Sleep nowadays, as these games look a lot better on modern consoles, but Birth by Sleep is where it's at. And as always, yes, I've made a video on it. You can check it out if you'd like.
Number 2.
Kratos and the God of War franchise will always have a special place in my heart. Doesn't matter what console or platform at this point, the story of Kratos is one that I will always respect and enjoy. Now, there are 2 God of War games that were released on the PlayStation Portable that then later got ported over to the PS3. And my favorite of the 2 has got to be Ghost of Sparta. Ghost of Sparta is one of the more personal journeys for Kratos, as it takes place moments after God of War 1. Deimos, Kratos' brother, was wrongfully imprisoned by the gods at a young age. They believed that Deimos would be the destruction of their kind. This literally is the definition of they got the wrong kid. Kratos goes toe-to-toe with Thanatos, the god of death, while dealing with the family conflict that's not only involving his brother, even his own mother Calliope as well. Ghost of Sparta was one of those titles that definitely felt like it was meant for a console and got repurposed as a portable game, but considering that it was released at the end of the God of War franchise's life cycle, the combat, the story, and the action will scratch that classic God of War itch for those of you who are looking to try it out. Don't sleep on this one. It's genuinely really great.
Number 1.
All right, a lot of you knew this was coming from a long mile away. This was, in fact, the game that made me purchase a PlayStation Portable. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII tells the wonderful story of the hero in training Zack Fair and his journey of becoming the best hero in the world for Shinra's elite military operation known as Soldier. It also reveals more of the truth about the events of the infamous Nibelheim incident of Sephiroth burning down a village that all of us Final Fantasy fans have come to know and love over the last several decades. The ending of Crisis Core is one of my favorite endings to a game ever. You know what's coming and you think you're ready for it, and it turns out, yeah, you're not. Not too long ago, I put out a 45-minute plus video about why I love this game so much. And at this point, I've talked about this game so much in my career. And without spoiling too much for those of you who want to enjoy it till this day, the game got ported and remastered to all major gaming platforms with some fun combat upgrades. This game made me realize how much I love Zack Fair and the story of the Buster Sword way more than Cloud and the lies that he spouts during the main events of Final Fantasy VII. If you're playing Final Fantasy VII Remake or Rebirth, it's not required that you play this game, but I would really recommend it. So those are my favorite games of the PlayStation Portable era. Name some of yours in the comments down below. I hope you guys are all doing well. I miss you all a ton, and I hope to see you soon in the future. Bye for now.